Now, Aditya, in February of 2023, we talked together about one of the top innovations in Cloudinary, which was on-the-fly video adaptive bitrate streaming. And what's great is just in the next month, in March, we now are talking about an addition to that overall feature, which is audio normalization. This is exciting. And as someone that works with lots of AV things for my job, I'm very particularly excited by this. But talk to me about what this means for you and what this means for Cloudinary.
Yeah, sure. So adaptive bitrate streaming, as you know, is all about adapting the video format and the quality based on the end user's device and internet connection. And we continue to make this feature really powerful by adding the ability to also on the fly adapt and normalize the audio quality of the video. So think of scenarios where it's a product explainer video where somebody is walking through how to use a product or a service. It could be a kitchen appliance and somebody is demonstrating a recipe and how to use that kitchen appliance for making that recipe. And there are varying audio levels between when the person speaks and when the appliance is running. And if there is a very significant difference in the audio levels, it can lead to a very jarring experience for the end user who's trying to listen to this. So for scenarios like that, or even in user-generated videos where somebody is maybe doing a review of a restaurant and they're doing it live, they're in front of the restaurant and there's traffic behind and there's, the person trying to speak, and then they try to then switch to, showing the restaurant. That can have, these challenges as well. So for these scenarios, we wanted to give our customers the ability to normalize the audio level so it does not lead to this jarring experience. And this transformation is simply done using a simple URL that can be added in the video file. And then at the time when the video gets streamed using our ABR technology, that audio normalization can happen. So again, a massive sort of benefit here for a developer, especially who, in other scenarios would have had to take this video, put it in some sort of an expensive tool, and then try and normalize the audio. It requires expertise. It requires, a lot of time and effort to do this. And now this can all be done using AI in a matter of seconds.
Yeah. And you're 100% right that it was a manual process before something like this, where in work that I've done, normalization takes a lot of work and you're having to play even between multiple programs when you're doing the manual work, because maybe the normalization is something that you can only tweak here, but you want to make sure that you're emphasizing other parts of it and other parts of the video, and you need other software for it. So it just becomes this very complicated process to do it correctly. And where I really see this also being helpful is, as you're pointing out, things like the restaurant review that you mentioned. That's user-generated content. So when you have people that are submitting their videos, and maybe you want to be able to show the authenticity of that video, but you also want to make sure that, as you're saying, road noise, other factors aren't cutting into what the person's saying, it's going to create some level of normalization so that way the honkings of the horn or the people on the street isn't overtaking the overall video, the audio experience of the person that's trying to convey their points. So I think it's an amazing example, and it really allows for people to grab content that's amazing content and be able to do something equally amazing with it, be able to deliver it very quickly without having to hold on to it too long, with a lot of overall management processes that are associated with the overall editing of that video content. So I'm impressed. I'm very impressed by this. So Paul, let's have a quick demonstration of this. What is audio normalization and how does that work with Cloudinary?
So I think Aditya explained it well. It's just a way to make sure that the audio levels, when you have various audio sources in a video, are not jarringly different, right? So this example I'm going to show, this is actually from our demo site. I think it's pretty good. It's a pretty good example. So I'll press play, and you guys can hear the video, the audio, and then we'll discuss actually what the difference is between this original file and then the normalized version. So I'll hit play and be quiet for a moment. So it's obviously a sample video that we put together for this, but it does illustrate the point. We have these various different sources of noise, and they're at different levels, right? So let's take a look at what happens when we normalize them. And I think, given the fact that we're doing this, from my computer, the best way to do that is to look at the waveforms. But we'll actually have these the original and the normalized version available to look at as an example. But let's look at the waveforms next, so we can really visualize what's happening here with this tool. So here I've opened that same video in my browser, and I have in the URL API, I'm passing this simple command, which is E_volume auto, which is saying the volume effect, use auto settings. So that's going to trigger this automatic leveling of the background noise, of the volume, make sure that everything is going to be sounding more uniform. So if I open up the waveform that I actually created using Cloudinary, we can see that it starts out with that noise, if you recall, like that sort of lakeside with some background noise. Then it gets really quiet with that music. And then we have some early variations with the cats playing the piano, etc. So this is the original. We can see that there's there isn't really a lot of volume coming through in that central part of the video, which is quite quiet. But if I pass this E-volume auto, we can actually start to see this volume start to get a little bit more normalized. We can see that the really quiet section has been bumped up, and we can see more normalization around these the peaks and valleys. So the best way to look at this is if I just go back and forth, you can see where this comes through. So, this may seem like a subtle difference, but if you're listening to a video and there are these pretty significant changes in audio, it really is much more pleasing to the ear. It's a much better user experience. And I think that this is going to help, like Aditya and Sam talked about, doing this manually in some editing software is going to be very difficult, and it's going to, open up a can of worms. You might not be doing as good of a job as the AI can do unless you're a really skilled audio editor. So this is a pretty good innovation for our streaming capabilities.
And one thing I also love about this as well, and DJ, tell me if you're agreeing with this overall situation, but one thing that Cloudinary has done very well is create these auto transformations where we have F-auto for format and making sure it's delivered to the most optimal format for bandwidth purposes, and making sure that there's no major differences in how someone sees the quality. And we have many versions of these autos. And this is just another one where now we have it where you simply can set it and kind of forget it, where it's like you just allow the system to do its job for you without having to go through all these processes. So you can simply apply the E_volume auto to say auto or normalize the audio and make sure it happens for all videos, and it just does it for you. So that way you can know it's always happening with every single thing that you're uploading to your Cloudinary system. Does that sound like that's the one way to look at it?
Yeah, couldn't have said it better. As Paul mentioned, leaving it to an AI-based algorithm ensures that there is a more precise normalization of that audio. It takes away the need to have an expert trying to do this, and really saves you a tremendous amount of time as well. And like you said, we do the F-auto, which is automatic format selection, the Q-auto, which is automatic quality selection. And now this is automatic audio quality, so that your video stands out and delivers a great user experience.